Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Well, it's time to make those cinnamon buns that I've been talking about for a little bit. Today I think I'm going to try to make a batch of cinnamon buns and just a loaf of cinnamon bread. See how that works out. Now this recipe is very similar to the dinner roll recipe that I had before. So let me go ahead and tell you what I got. In this measuring cup here, I've got 4 ounces of water, a stick of butter, I have a can of evaporated milk, the 12-ounce can, 2 eggs. We're going to need some yeast, some salt, and as you can see here in my bowl, I've got a cup of sugar and I've got 5 cups of flour. All right, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pour our evaporated milk into our measuring cup, and then we're going to put it into the microwave for about 2 minutes or so. For those of you that did not see my dinner roll video, I'm going to put these in there for about 2 minutes. It's going to be enough to bring the temperature up to roughly 120 to 125 degrees, which is what we want roughly, anywhere between 110 to 120 or so degrees, which is roughly the temperature that we want in order for our yeast to thrive. So let me go ahead and do that. I'm going to put the milk in here, put it in the microwave, and then we'll be right back to finish mixing up our dry ingredients. Okay, now we're ready to mix up our dry ingredients. Before I start that though, ladies and gentlemen, just in case you're asking, I'm going to go ahead and make the filling for the cinnamon rolls while this dough is going through its initial proof. So that's why I don't have the ingredients for that out yet. But once we get this dough ready to go to its initial proof, then I'll go ahead and go over the ingredients for the filling of the cinnamon buns. Now here, I believe I told you that I have 5 cups of flour. I have 1 cup of sugar. We're going to add 1 tablespoon of salt. And we're going to add 1.5 tablespoons of yeast. We'll go ahead and throw this here on the side. And that's it for our dry. Now that we have all of our dry ingredients, we're going to go ahead and mix it all in. Mix it in nice. That way everything is dispersed evenly. And now let me just go ahead and show you real quick. This is what I look for. See if you guys can see this. But I'm not sure if you can see this or not. There you go. Well, I'm getting it out of the water. Or out of the wet ingredients. But anyways, right there we're looking at about 110. And it's very close to 120. I just took it out of the milk and butter, but as you can see, it's almost 120. That is perfect. Now all we have to do is pour in our wet ingredients. And for those of you that maybe did not see my dinner roll video, and if you didn't, you may want to check that out. I'll leave a card for it because those things came out great. This will be somewhat of a sticky dough, but it will still be manageable. So I'm just going to mix this in until this starts to get the flour wet. And now I'm going to go ahead and put in my 2 eggs. And now we'll go ahead and mix it all in. You're going to mix this in until the dough forms, and then we're going to go ahead and knead that dough until it has the right consistency. Last time it took me about 15-18 minutes of kneading in order to get this dough put together. And I'm assuming it's going to be about the same thing. Now you can do this with a KitchenAid if you have one. But I do these videos early in the morning. Like right now it's only about 5 in the morning. because I like to do this by hand and I like to take my time doing it. So if you do it this way, you're going to end up getting your hands a little bit dirty. Now, depending on where you live, if you need to add just a little more flour, that's okay, but don't add too much, because if you do, you're going to end up with a pretty dense bread. Okay, so now that we've got this, I'm going to go ahead and scrape this off onto my counter. But first I'm going to make sure that my counter is clean and that it's dusted off with a little bit of flour. Okay, now I just about scraped everything off. I didn't want to put you guys through the torture of that. As you can see, there's still a little bit of flour on the bottom. We're just going to dump it right on our counter. And now, ladies and gentlemen, starts the fun part. You get to have a little fun and have a little workout at the same time. Okay, we're going to save our bowl so that we can proof our dough in it. And you don't have to wash it, ladies and gentlemen. It'll work just fine like that. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to start kneading. And your hands are going to get sticky, but you're going to keep working through it until the dough comes together. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and fast forward this. That way you guys can see how I knead. When I knead, especially if I'm going to knead for like 10 or 15 minutes, I try to use my weight. I put my weight behind the motion instead of just using the mechanical motion of my shoulder. That way there's less wear and tear. All right, so let's get started.
This is the song that never ends. It just goes on. Is this how you say it? Okay. It just goes on and on, my friends. We started singing it not knowing what it was. And now we'll keep on singing it forever just because this is a song that never ends. Hail Russia. This is on and on, my friends. Hail Russia.
Do that Mike Tyson thing again. That's funny.
What Mike Tyson thing? Why do you say it sounds like Mike Tyson, huh? What do me and him have common?
You have common.
Didn't have common, yeah, that's how we say it where I'm from. Wanna fight about it?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so if you saw on the fast speed where I sprinkled just a little bit of flour on top to finish bringing this together, as you can see, my hands are fairly clean, or my hand is fairly clean, the one that I use, and I've been at it for about 15 minutes. Now it's still very sticky. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sprinkle just a tiny bit more flour on it to shape this and to put it in my bowl. And if you don't have a sifter, all I do is this. Put a little flour in my hands, like that. And then I just kind of like crumble it on top. Okay. I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to go get my bowl. I'm going to put a tiny bit of olive oil in there. It doesn't have to be olive oil. Probably put about maybe half a tablespoon or so. Teaspoon. Just enough to coat this. And don't worry about any crumblies in there. They're not going to get in the way. They're not going to hurt this at all. Okay. Now I've got my scraper right here ready. And I'm just going to go ahead and scrape this from the bottom. Okay. Give it a couple more gentle folds. And you see now it's feeling really, really nice. And I'm not going to lie, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to spend a good 15 minutes or so, I would say, kneading. And probably about the first 10, 11 minutes of your kneading, your hands are going to be pretty dirty, right? Pretty sticky. So now that we got our dough right here, right? Let's go ahead and form the bottom. And there you go. You can see that when you press on it, it springs back up. So now, let's bring our bowl over here. put it face down on the bowl. I'm going to bring it upside. Let's make sure that it's nice and coated with the oil. That way it doesn't build a crust. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and put some plexi wrap. I always want to say plexiglass. I'm going to put some plexi wrap over this, and then I'm going to set it to proof. Right now, for those of you that may not have seen my dinner roll video, if you live in an area that's not very warm and your house is not very warm, like for example my house averages around 67 or so degrees, I'll go ahead and put this on top of a warm surface, be it on top of a pot that just had boiling water with the burner turned off, or on top of a slow cooker or something like that. But you want to make sure that your temperature when you're proofing is probably around 100 degrees. I would say that's optimal. Right? And then this should double in size anywhere between half an hour to 1 hour, I would say. So we'll be back when this doubles in size and we'll go to our next step. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I decided to go ahead and show you how I'm proofing it anyways, just in case there's someone that's new to the channel that's seeing this for the first time. Since my home is a little bit on the cooler side during the winter and the summer, to tell you the truth, because it's extremely well insulated, when I proof my dough, this is one of the methods that I use. I have a slow cooker here, crock pot, whatever you want to call it. And what I do is I get it up to heat, and then I put it on just keep warm. I put my bowl in there, and then I cover this with a towel. And that is just the perfect temperature for your dough to proof really well. So this dough should only take about maybe, I would say 30 minutes, 45 minutes to proof. And it's one of the best ways that I found to proof dough if you don't have a proof box, all right? And you're already using something that you already have. So for those of you that have never tried this, that have had problems proofing dough, I know a lot of people put it in the oven and stuff like that, but even my oven, when it's not on, even just with the light on, it's still not warm enough to properly proof the dough. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. So our dough has proofed. And I haven't shown you this, but this is something that I like to do whenever I'm using this bowl in particular to proof my dough. And when I'm using the method that I showed you and using my slow cooker or crock pot to help to prove it as well, a way that I determine that I'm not putting it on too high of a setting, usually I'll put it on high for like the first 5 minutes so it can heat up the water, and then I'll put it on warm, but I'll come and check it every 15 or 20 minutes just to make sure that I'm not overheating it, because you don't want to cook your dough, you just want to proof it. So I take my thermometer here and I just stick it right through the plastic, right into the dough, and I'm going to show you that it's keeping a pretty good temperature. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see that or not, but you see that it's about 105 degrees. And that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not a professional baker or anything like that, but that to me is like the perfect temperature for your dough to be while it's proofing. And so now we're going to go ahead, we're going to get this dough rolled out, and then we're going to make our filling for it. Now in this cup, I have, actually we can do this now because it's very easy. The only thing I'm going to add to this 1 stick of butter here that is mixed, that is melted, I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of vanilla. And for those of you that are looking for the best vanilla that I've ever had, I think I've featured this vanilla in previous videos. This Rodell vanilla is probably the best that I've ever had. It's a bit pricey, but as you can see, I've had this probably for close to a year now, and I've used about 1/3 or 1/4 of this container, and it comes in a 6.75 ounce bottle. And when you see it come in the package, it's going to be such a nice package that you won't even want to open it. Just like me, it took me a while to open it. And there's a vanilla bean in there, as you can see as well. Now, what you can do with this is pretty pricey. This is probably about $40-something. But what you can do if you purchase this, once you empty it, what you can do is you can purchase a few more vanilla beans, maybe a little pod of 5 vanilla beans that they sell on Amazon. You can stick them in there and then fill this up with vodka and let it sit for a couple of months really, and it'll make a really good vanilla. You know what, just a second, I know I'm diverting here off this video, but let me go ahead and show you the batch of vanilla that I've got going on here. I started it a few months back, probably about, I want to say 3 to 6 months ago I started it, if not longer, and it's looking really good. So let me show you that here in a second. Now this here, let me get this out of the way. This here is the vanilla that I made. Now those of you that have been with me for a while probably remember when I made this. It was a while back, and I ended up starting this batch with 5 vanilla beans and 750 milliliters of vodka. You don't have to use expensive vodka, and some people have told me that you can use brandy as well or white rum as well. I've never tried it with those. I've always done it with vodka and always come out very well. Now about halfway through, I ended up adding another 5 beans. So there's 10 beans in here altogether. 10 beans cost around $30 or less, and the bottle of vodka that I put in here cost, it was a cheap bottle of vodka, like $5 that I had bought a few years back. So for what you pay for one of these, you can make more than twice as much if you make it yourself. And once this is done, once I've used all of this up, all I have to do is refill it with vodka, maybe add in another 1 or 2 vanilla pods in there, vanilla beans in there, and you can leave the ones that are already in there, you can leave them in there, and it'll continue to make vanilla extract for you. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add just 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract. And ladies and gentlemen, if you smell this vanilla, it is, oh my goodness, it's so good. It smells so very good, and you can really taste it too. Now we'll give this a stir, and as you can see, the butter isn't 100% melted, but that's not a big deal. We'll give this a stir and we'll just put it aside. And if you have a temperature zone, if you live in a temperature zone where you can just leave butter out on the counter and it's nice and soft, then you can do that as well. Just leave it out on the counter. For me here, that doesn't work. The next thing we're going to need is going to be some ground cinnamon, and we're going to need some brown sugar. Now, for those of you that don't have brown sugar or cannot get brown sugar for whatever reason, there is an alternative. If you have white granulated sugar and if you have molasses as well, you can go ahead and add about 2 tablespoons of molasses to every cup of granulated sugar, and that will pretty much turn it into brown sugar. Pretty much give it about the same taste. I actually think it's a little bit better taste than the one you buy at the store, but we have this, and this is what we're going to use. In addition to that, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to need some raisins, and I wanted to show you something else also with these raisins. I've heard a lot of people, you know, not recently, but you know, in my time, I've heard a lot of people say that raisins go bad not long after their best by date. Ladies and gentlemen, the best by date on these raisins, let me see if I can find it. Here it is right here. The best by date, if you can see that, was 15 March of 2017. And when I open these raisins and show them to you, you're going to be like, wow, they're still in excellent shape. And they are. They're in excellent condition. There's absolutely nothing wrong with them. And they taste just fine. This is what they look like still. But you'll see them when I take them out and spread them on the dough. All right, so enough chit-chatting. Let's go ahead and get this dough out on the counter. Let's roll it out. And then let's go ahead and put our filling in it so that we can put it back to proof once we cut it up and put it on our pan. Now I am very happy with this dough. Look at that. It is, it's beautiful. And this should pop right on out. See, that's why we use a little bit of oil. There's a little bit stuck in here. Let's go ahead and pull that out. And now we are done with our bowl. We're going to go ahead and take this and we're going to go ahead and punch it down, get all the air out of it. And it's a very nice dough. Very, very nice. And as you can see, it's still got a little bit of stickiness to it, but not nearly as much as it was when we started. So this is all about being patient, ladies and gentlemen. I actually had this proofing for about an hour and a half. And you're really not doing any work while it's proofing, so I can't really call that work. It's just a waiting game. So now we're just going to give it a nice knead so that we can make sure that the temperature throughout the dough is equalized. Still a little bit sticky, but not bad at all. So I think I'm going to get a little bit, just a tiny bit of flour to keep this from sticking too bad so that we can roll it out. Now we're going to go ahead and cut it in half, right around. So remember, I'm going to try to make a loaf as well. And then we're going to make cinnamon rolls with the other half. Let's go ahead and, okay, almost good to go. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to let those sit there for about 5 or 10 minutes so they can rest just for a while. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to go ahead and get my pan ready so that we can put our cinnamon rolls and our loaf in our pan so that we can get them to proof for the last time. Okay, now that it's been sitting there, I'm going to go ahead and roll this out. Let me go ahead and put this one out of the way. And what we're trying to do here, ladies and gentlemen, is we're just going to go ahead and try to make it into as much of a square as we can, or a rectangle. It doesn't have to be perfect. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen, a perfect rectangle. Well, not very perfect, but it doesn't have to be perfect, ladies and gentlemen. Perfection is sometimes boring. Now we get to get our hands a little dirty. And we get to spread out this butter and vanilla mixture. Now we're just going to spread this over. Spread it around, ladies and gentlemen. Don't be scared. All right. Actually, you know what? I'm going to take a little bit off of here because I want to put a little bit of this onto my loaf. So let me scoop some of this up with my scraper. And I put all of it in there by mistake, and I shouldn't have. But it's no big deal. Easy to fix. Let me go ahead and grab my scraper and take some off. All right, I scraped off about, I would say about 1/3 of it, and this is perfect. Okay, this here will work. So now, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go ahead and grab some sugar, some brown sugar, sprinkle it on there. And I guess if you were to measure it, you'd probably say it's probably about 3/4 of a cup of sugar or so that you're going to be putting on there. And there you go. You just go ahead and mix that in with your butter. For those of you out there that are obsessive compulsive, or have some kind of OCD, there is no such thing as making it perfect. And when you think about it, perfection is somewhat boring. All right, so now that we've got that on there, I'm going to go ahead and wash my hands. We're going to come back and finish it off. All right, now we are ready for our, actually we're ready for our cinnamon. Now this is to flavor, ladies and gentlemen. I just give this a nice coating through the entire sheet of dough that you see here. You can put on as much or as little as you like. That's about all I'll put on. I just give it a nice coating, that way it'll get over everything. And now we go with our raisins. Same thing with your raisins. You can be as liberal as you like with them. Fun thing to do with these raisins is to soak them in a little bit of spiced rum or brandy before you put them on here. That gives them a nice flavor as well. And that's it. We don't really want to overcrowd it too much with raisins. That ought to do the trick right there. Now we're just going to go ahead and roll it up. When you get to the end, just pinch it off really nice. Try to make a seal. And now we are ready to cut this and put it on our pan. I'm going to go ahead and cut these, put them on the pan. Then I'm going to go ahead and do my loaf, and then I'll show you what both of them look like when they are in their final resting place before they go in the oven. And now that I've cut up and placed the cinnamon rolls in the pan, let's go ahead and make a very simple loaf. I'm just going to go and punch this down a little bit. Fold it. Ladies and gentlemen, those little specks you see there, that's just a piece of raisin that fell off. I'm not going to bother trying to take that off. This loaf will not have any raisins in it. It's going to be very simple. Okay, now we'll just put on our filling. The one that we scraped off the other one. Oh, we'll put in a little bit of sugar. I would say that there is probably just a little bit shy of a half of a cup. Okay. Then we will put our cinnamon. Okay, mix it all in. There we go. All right, now we're ready to fold this up, and all you have to do, ladies and gentlemen, nothing special. Just go ahead and roll it. Just like you did the cinnamon buns. I'm going to roll this. And you don't even have to really seal it. Alright, just give it a few pinches so it'll stay together some. But it doesn't have to be like the cinnamon buns, because this is just going to go in our pan. Now my pan, I forgot to take a stick of butter out of the freezer to let it soften up a little bit. So what I did is I just went ahead and greased this a little bit and put some parchment paper in the bottom. Okay, so that's how we're going to roll with this one. We're going to take our roll. We're just going to place it in there with the seam side down. See that? See if I can give you guys a bit of a better picture. I'm going to place it in there. I'm going to work it. I'm going to work it just like if it was a regular loaf of bread. Now I'm not going to cook these on 350 like I normally cook my bread. I'm going to go ahead and cook these at about 325 for a little bit longer. because I don't want any of the exposed sugar to burn. So I'm going to go ahead and cook these a little slower and a little longer. I'm going to start off with 325. I'm going to check it at 15 minutes. And then at 15 minutes, I'll see what it looks like. And then more than likely, I'll end up leaving it in there for about another 10 minutes. Probably be about 25 minutes altogether. But depending on where you live, it really depends on how long you're going to have to cook it for. So I just recommend that you go ahead and check it after 15 minutes, see what it looks like, and then you can leave it longer or not. Now what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to go ahead and put a nice slit down the middle, and I'm going to try to go a little bit deep with the slit. And it's okay to do this before the dough has risen. Right, there you go. And that's going to end up covering itself up, but when it's baked, it usually makes a pretty nice pattern. I kind of like it. You don't have to do that though, okay? So we're going to go ahead and cover this up with some plexi wrap, and we're going to go ahead and get it ready to proof. And let me go ahead and show you what the cinnamon buns look like. This is what the cinnamon buns look like before they're proofed. So now we're going to go ahead and put these to proof. So I'm going to go ahead and cover these up. I'm going to put them on top of my slow cooker. And I'm going to take the loaf and put it right next to the slow cooker, because I'll probably end up cooking these first and then cooking the loaf second. Well, these are all done proofing. And here's the big reveal. And look at that. That looks pretty nice. Now what I'm going to do, ladies and gentlemen, is you don't have to do this part. I like to do it because it makes them look nicer. Is I took 1 egg and about 1 tablespoon of milk, and I mixed it together. And I'm going to use that as an egg wash to put over my cinnamon rolls. What it does is it gives them a nice golden brown look when they're done. And now we are ready to go to the oven. Now look at those, ladies and gentlemen. Look at these beauties. See if you guys can get a good picture of these. They came out perfect. But we haven't done a taste test yet. So we're going to have to do that here in a second. First, I want to break these up. Show you guys how easy they break apart, or they tear apart. And put them on a plate, and then we're going to tear into one, see what it looks like inside. Now let's take a look at this one, ladies and gentlemen. We have to do a quality assurance inspection. Look at that. Look how nice and soft it is. It's nice and springy. Let's tear into it. Here's the middle. And let's give it a taste test. I think these came out perfect. Let's see what it tastes like. Those came out outstanding, ladies and gentlemen. Outstanding. But you all know what the best part of a cinnamon bun is, right? It's the middle. Let's take a look and see what this middle tastes like. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this came out outstanding. Very, very good. It's not super sweet, but it's sweet enough to where you can either have it for breakfast with your coffee or have it as a dessert. The bottoms are a little bit sticky, but not super sticky. And remember, I told you that I didn't want to cook it on too high of a heat because I didn't want the sugar to burn. As you can see, it caramelized just a little bit, but it definitely didn't burn. This is a perfect roll. Look at that. Look at how nice and easy it tears. And no, this is not going to go to waste. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let me go ahead and get the bread out so you can see what the loaf looks like. it's just about done, and then we'll show it to you, and then we'll call it good for the day. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is our loaf. Check that out. And if I got lucky, depending on how well the grease held up, you should be able to lift it up with your parchment paper. But if you do this, just be careful because, well, I'm going to be careful because this pan is still very hot. Hey, look at that. That's what it looks like. Now I'm going to leave it in here for a little bit until it cools down just a bit. That way it doesn't deflate on itself from the weight. And then I'm going to put it on a cooling rack. Then I'm not going to cut this one today. And the reason, well, I should cut it just to show you guys. I was going to take this and put it in the freezer. Because it's going to take us a while to get through the cinnamon buns. So I was going to take this and put it in the freezer and save it. But I'll wait until it gets cooled off, and then I'll cut it so I can show you guys what it looks like after it's cut into. All right, so here is our loaf of bread, and let's see how it cuts. It's nice and soft, by the way. It's not hard. Let's go ahead and cut another piece. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. See, it's very nice and subtle. Nice and subtle. Let's give it a taste and see what it tastes like. But look at how nice and soft it is. It's got a nice stretch. Let's give it a taste. Well, and to tell you the truth, ladies and gentlemen, I like this better than the cinnamon buns. Because it's like I told you, it's not as sweet. It's just the right sweetness, and you can pretty much eat this with your coffee or even have it with some milk. This, I would say, is perfect. The cinnamon buns, don't get me wrong, they're very, very good, but to me, they're more of a dessert. This is a great breakfast or coffee type of a bread to have with coffee. So I hope you guys give this a try, and I'm very happy with it. I'm dying to see what the center looks like, to see if there's more of a swirl, and I know probably some of you guys are too, so let's give it a try and see. I'll just put these in Ziploc bags so it doesn't dry out. Ah, look at that. Now that's nice. That middle part that's all surrounded with cinnamon and butter. Oh my goodness, I bet you that is delicious. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys enjoyed this and got something out of it, and I hope that you give this a try. It really is as good as I'm telling you that it is. To tell you the truth, this part here that really didn't have a lot of sweetness is delicious, and the texture of the bread is just perfect. So having said that, hey, happy Easter to all of you that celebrate Easter. Have a happy Easter. I'm sure that by now you'll know, but I was going to do a live stream today on Sunday, which is when this video is going to premiere, but I decided to do a premiere instead because it is Easter, and the premiere is actually timed, and anyone that wants to join in will know how long the video is instead of going live and not knowing how long the live stream will go on for. So happy Easter to all of you that celebrate Easter. I hope you guys have a great day today and a great week ahead. Having said that, remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place, and you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to all of you and families. This is Alaska Prepper. I'm out.